Let's talk about common factors and greatest common factors. These are both big ideas that will continue to help you as you go through your mathematical journey for years on end. So let's start out with two simple definitions. A common factor is a factor that two or more numbers share. So basically, you have a factor that is in common between two or more factors. A greatest common factor is exactly what it sounds like. It is the largest or greatest factor shared by two or more numbers. We often denote that GCF, or greatest common factor. So in other words, it's the biggest number that divides evenly into two or more numbers. A massive yet simple idea. We're going to exercise finding the greatest common factor of 12 and 42. And we're then going to use that much later on in our math studies in all kinds of applications, including first fractions, and then we go on and on from there. So to find the greatest common factor of 12 and 42, I'm going to do this in a couple ways. So in this first way, I'm going to show you by listing out all the common factors. And then we're going to see what the greatest one is. How do we do that? Well, you list out the factors of 12 and of 42. So let's start out with the factors of 12. So the factors of 12, let's think about that. Well, we've got 1 and 12. We've got 2 and 6. And 3 and 4. And then they're just going to start repeating. So the factors of 12, and I'm going to list them right here, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So then we're going to look at the factors of 42. So we'll take a look at that separately and I'll list them out. So the factors of 42 are 1 and 42. 2 goes into 42 21 times. 3 also goes into it. This is a weird factor, 14 times. 4 doesn't go into 42 because it goes into 40. 5 doesn't go into it. 6 does. 7 times. And then we're done with our list because the next factor would be 7 and 6, which would reverse everything. So I'm going to list out the factors of 42. So we've got 1, 2, 3, not 4, but the next number 6. I'm just going up this list here. 7, 14, 21, and 42. So we look at these lists right here now that we have them, and we just basically look and see what are the common factors, the numbers that go into both 12 and 42. And well, we have 1 goes into both of them, and 2 is a common factor here and here. 3 is also a common factor as well. And then if we keep going, 4 does not go into 42, but we notice that 6 goes into both 12 and 42. And as we carry down, we see that 12 is the biggest number that is a factor of 12, and 12 does not go into 42. Therefore, the biggest number that goes into both 12 and 42 is 6. So the GCF, or the greatest common factor, is equal to 6. That's one way of finding the greatest common factor. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to go over a second way. Stay tuned for the next clip on that. Now I'm going to go over a second method for finding the greatest common factor between two numbers. After a while, you're going to be able to do this mentally, and you're not going to really need to rely on either of these techniques. They're just kind of training techniques that will get you to riding your GCF bike on 2 wheels instead of with training wheels in no time. This other technique uses prime factorization. So what we do is we find the prime factorizations of 12 and 42 using any method that you want. So I'm going to use a factor tree. So we break this down. That's going to be, I'm going to do 2 and 6, circle the 2 because it's prime, and then 6 is 2 and 3, and we circle the primes. So I'll write down those prime factors in a little bit. 42 we can break down into 6 and 7. 7 is prime. 6 we can break down, because it's still composite, into 2 and 3. So now we have our prime factorizations of both numbers. I'm going to write those out right here. So you're going to get 2 times 2 times 3, and that's equal to 12, right? So this is the number for 12. And then I'm going to write down 2 times 3 times 7, and that's equal to 42. So those are the prime factorizations of both 12 and 42. Now from here, I'm going to see what the common prime factors are. Well, we see that in this number here and in this number there, we have a pair of 2's. Now this has 2 2's, this only has 1. So a pair of 2's, so that's one common factor. And another common factor, prime factor, would be 3 and 3. But what's left is we have an additional 2 as a factor in 12 that 42 does not have, and 42 has a 7 that 12 does not have. So the common factors are 2 and 3, which means that 2 times 3 is in 12, and 2 times 3 is in 42, and those are the greatest common factors we have, and that's equal to 6. A different way of finding the greatest common factor, but nonetheless a great way.